Welcome into Rogue Football. I'm your host, Jordan Lugo. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Right now, we have got our Detroit Lions 2024 7-round mock draft. The Lions, they had a magical run to the NFC title game, fell just short to the 49ers. Some wonkiness down the stretch in that one. Heartbreaking nonetheless for Detroit fans. Now, it is time to see if they can bring home the Lombardi for the first time ever in 2024. But before they get to that 2024 season, free agency, the draft, decisions made here this offseason are going to help determine if they can punch that ticket to the big game next February, right? Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, I think they have done a tremendous job building this team from a coaching standpoint and obviously from a personnel decision standpoint. Brad Holmes kind of holding all the media accountable up there in Detroit a few weeks back, but I think that Brad Holmes has done a fantastic job drafting and building this roster. Keeping Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator, and Aaron Glenn, your defensive coordinator for 2024, yet another season with these two, an absolute coup for the Detroit Lions. I think fans should be really fired up about that. But again, some big decisions to be made in free agency and the draft. You've got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Emmanuel Mosley, Josh Reynolds, Jonah Jackson, and Graham Glasgow on the interior of the offensive line. Several other key role players and key backups that are set to hit free agency. But the Detroit Lions, they have a cool $50 million in cap space per overthecap.com right now. Plenty of room to do whatever they want with those free agents and add to this talented group in free agency, right? 7 draft picks currently at their disposal. As of right now, I think when you look at the needs, you could need some outside cornerbacks, certainly. They ran a lot more man coverage in 2023, something to keep in mind, see if that continues moving forward. At guard, they could be losing up to 2 starters and a backup there. Defensive end, I think you could definitely use a full-time starter to pair with Aiden Hutchinson. At wide receiver as well, you know, if you lose Josh Reynolds, you still have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Khalif Raymond, Jamison Williams as your deep threat, but you could get better there too. You could add another talented piece. We are not going to reach for needs here in this draft. You try to take care of your needs in free agency, which the Lions should absolutely be able to do, and then build this team up in the draft with talented players who kind of fit that tough, passionate mold that Dan Campbell likes, that culture that he has established in Detroit. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump into it. At 29 overall, I have the Detroit Lions taking edge rusher Adisa Isaac out of Penn State. This is a player that has really been rising up boards, had a tremendous Senior Bowl, but you go back and watch the tape, he has a tremendous base down skill set. So he can come in right away, stop the run. He has great explosiveness and overall athleticism and length, 250 pounds. So not the biggest edge rusher out there, but again, with his skill set and his traits, he can stop the run at a high level early on for you. And then also you saw a budding pass rush skill set throughout his 2023 campaign. And then definitely at the Senior Bowl, he was unblockable by some of the best tackles at the Senior Bowl throughout portions of those practices. So I think Adisa Isaac, he plays the game the right way. He plays with high energy, big time motor. I think he's a fit for the Detroit Lions, and I think he's a player that would really complement Aiden Hutchinson very well and help build up that defensive front. At 61 overall, wide receiver Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky, another player who I thought really stood out at the Senior Bowl. This is a guy who does have some correlation to an Amon-Ra St. Brown, some similarities in their game. They're both really thickly built, powerful wide receivers. Malachi Corley came in as a running back in college, converted to wide receiver. He has excellent hands, does not put the football on the ground. There's some Amon-Ra St. Brown to him. There's also some Deebo Samuel to him, and I do not say that lightly, but once this guy has the ball in his hands, he is an explosive runner. He breaks tackles. He's physical. He can run past you. He can run through you. I think that Ben Johnson landing a player like a Malachi Corley, who showed the ability to sink his hips at the Senior Bowl and run more of the route tree than he was asked to do at Western Kentucky, pairing him with Amon-Ra St. Brown, with Khalif Raymond, with Sam Laporta, and then having Jamison Williams trying to take the top off and these guys, just feasting underneath and at the second level. I think that could really open some things up for your offense, take some pressure off some of the guys you have right now, and build for the future as well. I think Corley is going to be a good football player in the NFL for quite some time, and I think he's only going to get better the longer he is in the NFL, asked to do more as a receiver. I don't think that he wasn't asked to do more at Western Kentucky because he couldn't, but because of their offense, right? I think he absolutely can do more in terms of running the full route tree, explosiveness. He's 5'11, so not huge, but again, has leaping ability, has toughness, over 215 pounds. I think that this is the type of guy that really fits what Detroit could do on offense this year. At 73 overall, we mentioned that you need to kind of upgrade that secondary. I think Mikey Sanders, still out of Michigan, is a player that can do a lot for you in that secondary. If you have Brian Branch playing more safety, Sanders still can play nickel. If you have Branch playing more nickel, Sanders still can play safety. He can also align at outside corner for you when you're in zone looks. I don't think you necessarily want him playing man-to-man on the outside. But again, the versatility that he brings, the playmaking he brings, he was always around the football for the Michigan Wolverines. This is a guy that used to play wide receiver, converted to defensive back. I think he's the perfect fit for the Detroit Lions, and another Michigan guy just heading over to Detroit makes a lot of sense for me. 92 overall, another corner, Kyrie Jackson. This time, this is a player that does play outside, does play press man coverage. He's got very good length, good athleticism overall, can mirror movements, can play press, can really get physical with you. I think the energy and enthusiasm he brings to the position kind of reminds you of a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, not in terms of how they play on the football field, in terms of where they align, but that kind of pesky, annoying energy. Kyrie Jackson brings that. He's got great catch point skills as well. To me, this is an extreme value at 92 overall. Should be a second round pick in this class. But if you could land him at 92, that would be a huge move for the Detroit Lions in terms of upgrading their secondary, landing a Mikey Sanders still to help out and be versatile, and then getting a pure outside cornerback in Kyrie Jackson. I think you're now able to compete at a higher level with some of the more potent passing offenses in the NFL. At 163 overall, we're kind of repairing what we lost potentially in free agency in that interior of the offensive line. I think Mason McCormick screams Detroit Lions with his ability in the run game to just put people on their butt. He is so physical. He loves hitting. He's out of South Dakota State. And the next guy we're going to bring in is a running back that was running behind him at South Dakota State at 207 overall, running back Isaiah Davis. The Lions don't necessarily have an immediate need at running back, right? When you talk about David Montgomery, obviously what they did in the first round last year, landing Jahmyr Gibbs, but Isaiah Davis, I think, could potentially be in that David Montgomery type of role down the road. If you have an injury to a David Montgomery, he could fill in right away. I just think that this is a player that plays the game with physicality, can certainly come in and thrive in the Detroit Lions run game, and pass protect and catch the ball out of the backfield. I think he showed the ability to do that at Senior Bowl. The Lions, they've been a little bit unsettled at kicker. Obviously, Badgley is a free agent. Bring in Will Reichert out of Alabama, who was extremely consistent for the Crimson Tide last year, has a big leg, was 5 of 5 on field goals of 50-plus yards in 2023, and hopefully he can solidify that position for you, which is critical when you're talking about winning games in the playoffs. And that's going to do it here. I think you add a really talented edge prospect who is an ascending pass rusher, already a great base down skill set in Adisa Isaac, Malachi Corley, who you can align all over the football field. I think Ben Johnson would have a field day with that. Mikey Sanders still, Kyrie Jackson, both really upgrading that secondary. Mason McCormick kind of replenishing maybe some of the losses at interior offensive line from free agency, and then bringing in an Isaiah Davis and a Will Reichert to kind of round it out. I would love to know, if you're a Detroit Lions fan, what you think about this draft, what you would think about this, if this is how it went down for the Lions come late April. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Y'all have a good one.